night to have a new theme song written by Jerry Kimorto of the band Slapjaw for us. And we won't
Thank you,
have anybody-
Jerry!
Thank you, Jerry. We won't have any pesky people asking for money, which is interesting. Welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night. My name is J.W. Colwell. I am joined, as always, by my good friend, movie buff extraordinaire, Rich Drees. Rich, how are you doing
Good.
today?
I'm back on the East Coast.
You're back on the
I'm
East
sad.
Coast.
I'm sad.
So you're sad that you're on the East Coast. So I'm sad. I'm sad about a lot of things. I mean, can you really be sad though? You've had some interesting adventures on the West Coast. Like, what'd you see?
I went out. Well, last weekend I went out to Los Angeles for a couple of days because I just really needed to get out and clear my head. Did standby line for a couple of things at Turner Classic Movies. So I saw two VistaVision screenings. The first one was We're No Angels with Humphrey Bogart. And the second was Gunfight at the OK Corral. Both were produced, obviously, if it's VistaVision, by Paramount. These were actual VistaVision prints that haven't been screened since about 1955. They were in pretty good shape. Occasionally there would be a little speckle or a scratch. But as a VistaVision print, which goes through the camera and the projector horizontally like this instead of vertically like everything else, it was weird to see scratches that were going along this way instead of like up and down. Yeah, so every now and then you'd see a little scratch and be like, huh, oh yeah, that's right, we're doing this the other way. Had the worst pizza in the world. And I'm sorry.
I don't know. Florida has really bad pizza. The water,
dude.
There's something off about the water down here, and also on a white pizza down here, they will put ricotta on in dollops.
No,
it's weird. It's fucking weird.
All I know is
I also know that
I went to this place on Hollywood Boulevard called Greco's. It's literally located next to the Egyptian Theater where Jimmy Kimmel does his show. And outside there's this big sign that says New York style pizza. I had a slice or two. And it was the blandest, most tasteless. If a New Yorker walked into that place, they would take a bite of that pizza, burn the place to the ground, salt the earth.
Actually,
and
I
then
thought you were going to go to the obvious movie reference. I thought you were going to be like, they go into the bathroom, they get the gun from behind the toilet, they shoot, they leave, they Ethan can only take leave the gun.
I wouldn't take anything from that restaurant, to be honest. It was terrible.
Wow,
so that's
you also walked in the feet of greatness.
I did. Damn you! Damn you all to hell!
Damn you all to hell! Fun. LA is going to be. I don't even know how to start this subject. LA is going to be, I guess, part of the tariff train. So our erstwhile president, who has never really understood a tariff, and also has encouraged all of his supporters to not understand tariffs as well, made an announcement on Sunday night that made my toes curl. And this is the Variety headline. Movie industry shocked and confused after Trump says he'll put 100% tariffs on films produced outside the U.S. One studio executive said, "This is nuts," because nobody understands what it is, because tariffs are usually on products, not on goods or services, like you were saying, right?
Yeah. Movies are considered services. Goods get tariffed like shoes or iPhones.
My first question is, we have a bunch of wacky people that are in charge of the Hollywood arm of the Trump administration. Some right-wing movie makers, John Voight, Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone.
Well, here's the thing. John Voight reportedly was at Mar-a-Lago all weekend. So he was probably setting off a bunch of stuff, which when Trump says, "I've been doing my research all week," means John Voight talked to him for an hour over lunch.
You know what? This is funny. You make this mention. Do you know what was on local Florida television over the weekend as well? Escape from
National
Alcatraz.
Treasure. Oh,
Escape
from
from Alcatraz. So in the same
Are you
hour,
serious? Wait.
Escape from Alcatraz was on Florida television this weekend. Anyway.
Oh, fuck. That's fucking hilarious.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh,
anyway,
God. We are so doomed.
Nobody understands. Go ahead.
I was gonna.
I'll get to my major point because it's crazy.
Okay. Well, first of all, kind of agree with him that, yeah, Los Angeles and the U.S. film industry is in a little bit of trouble due to runaway production. This is nothing new. It's been going on for about 20 years now, all the way back to like shows like the X-Files shooting in Vancouver, to save, a few bucks.
Count.
But, TV shows and movies.
Doesn't count, Rich. Let's not get them on television.
I know.
Anyway.
If you're watching, Mr. President, we need to talk. Please pay attention in the next 2 minutes. But he's going about this to bring stuff back in all the wrong way. He wants to punish companies for going outside of the United States when he should be incentivizing. It's a carrot or the stick approach. And we need a carrot here. We've been saying that Governor Newsom in California needs to expand the tax incentive program. We've look what's happened. It's been happening in Georgia, and that's become a great production hub. It's happening in Louisiana. It's happening a little bit in New York.
The Georgia thing is interesting because they got the tax credits, but then they did a bunch of shit that was not left leaning or that were harshly right leaning. And so everybody kind of pulled their shit out. And then also England is offering a massive tax cut to Marvel. We have the number of movies of the weekend, right? So they're filming They started filming Doomsday Friday in England.
Mm-hmm.
So
between Doomsday and Secret Wars, Marvel's probably dropping $500 million in England.
Yeah.
And usually, and when you spend, like, for every dollar you spend in some locale, it generates up to like $20 in other economic activity. So we are kind of losing out. But
people, yes, ride share, all these different things picks up. The most interesting thing for me, and tell me if you haven't heard this, but this is my most interesting thing. All of these other things the tariffs were designed as, we have a trade deficit. Right? We have a trade deficit with China, so I'm putting this huge tariff on China. The problem with this tariff, and again, nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows how it's going to work. No, nothing. We don't know how anything. We don't know if it's going to be a full budget. We don't know. Like, a budget for the next Avengers movie is $250. Is the tariff going to be $250 on the budget? Is the tariff going to be
just what's spent overseas versus
on the tax break they get from England? We don't know. But what I would say, your whole process in life is to put a tariff on because we have a trade deficit. The United States movie industry is not the place to think you have a trade deficit.
No.
American movies are the last great export we had. Our movies are watched everywhere in the world. Everywhere. I think the number I heard was we have a $15.3 billion surplus in the amount of tickets that are bought for our movies produced by American citizens. So the idea that you're going into this and going, I know what to do, I'm going to do a tariff, it goes against everything you're saying with all the other stupid tariffs you're doing. So that's my thing. My thing is, are you trying to ruin the last great thing we export? Are you trying to ruin it? Are you trying to crash it because you don't agree with their politics or whatever? I don't care. This is the last great thing that America exports. Our American movies are watched in China. They're watched in Japan. They're watched wherever you have a trade deficit, whatever country. Our movies are the movies that make the most money. We're about to talk about the number one movie in the country, and the number one movie in the country is Thunderbolts, and it should be because it's great and it's fun. It grossed $74 million in the United States. but it grossed 86 million worldwide. So the idea that you're going to try to tank our movies so they make movies here makes no fucking sense, because there's no deficit. Every other tariff he's put on is because we have a deficit. We have a deficit with China. We have a deficit with the Penguin Island. We have a deficit with all these things. But American movies are the last true great export we have. Everybody wants our shit. Everybody wants Star Wars. Everybody wants the next Marvel movie. Everybody wants our horror films. And to just step your foot into this when at best on your own show you were a clown. You were a clown on your own show. You knew nothing about the production. You didn't understand the production. You actually caused more problems than you were worth on the production. Everybody said it. The idea that you think you understand our industry, the film industry, is psychotic.
And the idea that we need to bring all production back to the United States is ridiculous. We're in the middle of our Mission Impossible series. Mission Impossible is all about globe-trotting fun time adventures. Same with James Bond. Do you want to see certain movies that are very specifically shot in certain locations? Do you want to see the Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum shot outside of Burbank? No. Actually, do you want to see the next two Avatar movies shot, in some warehouse in
Rich? I'll give you a perfect one that feeds their nature. How, Mr. President, much tariff is going to be put on The Passion of the Christ 2?
Oh, the film that's shooting in Italy?
Yeah, how much of a tariff is going to be put on Mel Gibson, who you have put to your Hollywood board? It just makes no sense. Please stop this.
Well, there is some good news. White House officials have been slowly backing away from this a little bit today, as they keep fielding calls from press saying, we're just exploring it. This is nothing. He was a little premature, which is a problem for, I guess, his wives.
Wives, press secretaries, interviewers, anybody really.
Yeah. So, this might never come to pass. And honestly, I don't see how, the way he says tariffs, because that's his big talisman boogeyman word now. I don't see it being workable at all. I listened to, a couple of the business news, film business news podcasts that I listened to. All of them were dropping episodes by 3:00 this afternoon, trying to figure it out. Ran through the trades, and everybody is just like, nah, this is dumb. The Teamsters put out a statement about an hour ago that was like, hey, we're grateful he's kind of thinking about the American worker. And again, like I said, I would like to see more production back in the States. But that's going to depend more on incentives rather than threatening to hit them with the big tariff bat.
Well, I'll give you an example. There was one in the Variety article that says another important figure in France who runs one of the top festivals possibly can. Technically, films are services on which you can't impose tariffs. It can have important take months. While another producer who delivers French blockbusters said, we don't sell goods, we sell a service, so I don't know how it could be taxable. It's difficult what we're talking about at this stage, what it concerns. It's still very vague, and with Trump, things change every day. In Italy, Cinecittà Studios, which is set to host the shoot of Gibson's The Resurrection of the Christ, reacted diplomatically. We're observing with the utmost attention the movements of an important market like the U.S. This is just, it's crazy. I don't know where we're going with this. It's like the entire rest of the country right now. I don't know where we're headed. I don't understand it. I haven't understood it since November. So you're going to have to, I agree to disagree, but you're trying to destroy one of the last great American export businesses. You're literally
Mhm.
trying to destroy. Everybody wants to see Superman. Everybody wants to see Fantastic Four. Everybody wants to see, but these movies were filmed in different places. And also, the movie
And
we're talking about tonight, Rich. The movie we're talking about tonight wouldn't be half as much fun, Mission Impossible 2, if it wasn't shot in goddamn Sydney. Like it's
mhm.
in Australia. It's beautiful. So the idea that we're gonna completely try to ruin an industry which we dominate, aside from a few films a year, a few major hits from Bollywood and a few major hits from China. This is an industry Americans dominate.
Mhm.
You are
And
trying to ruin an industry America dominates. What the fuck?
if this were to go through and it just say, oh, any foreign made film, suddenly think about it. If this had gone through a couple years ago, maybe no one would have looked at Godzilla -1 and said, yeah, we need to pick that up. And what started off as like a little niche release for 1 week turned into a big hit, connected with a lot of people,
For
and
everyone,
ultimately
it
they were
opens
at the
the
Oscars. And them winning that special effects Oscar was such a great moment. It warmed my heart the way that the whole team kind of was there and they came up, they had all their little Godzilla
I don't know
figures
that
and
he
stuff.
cares about the heart being warmed, Rich. I
Well,
just
that's
think
true.
I just think he hears
He has not.
whatever's in front of him, and whatever's in front of him at any particular moment, tariff the shit out of him. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
comments. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Ken McKernan.
Even
I'm
Ken,
so
always a pleasure to see you.
always good, always a pleasure to have you, and thank you for doing the right thing in Canada. The idea of movie tariffs came from John Voight, whose last movie was filmed in Bulgaria. Fucking hypocrite. Yeah, it's. I'm so
Wait,
flabbergasted by this. It's just a crazy.
wait.
It's crazy.
Time out. Ken lives in Canada? How did I not know that?
I don't know why you didn't know that.
Oh.
Maybe you just don't love your
Ken, we all might be needing to stay on your couch.
We need to come visit. Do you have a basement? Why? How?
I'll bring a sleeping
Wait,
bag.
I'm going to give you my first line. How do you not know that Ken is in Canada? I don't know. Maybe you don't love our fans the way I do. Oh, that hurts.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Let's talk about something happier. Let's talk about Thunderbolts doing very well at the box office, although not well for people to get stamina and crazy. And I do want to say one thing about Thunderbolts. I do not like the poster gimmick that's going on. They should not ruin the movie until at least 2 weeks out. I'm very depressed about this because we were very careful not to tell you what the asterisk was in our review on Friday night, and they've simply ruined it. Not that it's a big deal, but it's jerks. Let's see. Montreal, where the new Karate Kid movie is being filmed. Montreal, very nice. We can definitely visit Ken. And he has healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Thunderbolts opened, but here there are two great things. First off, Thunderbolts is going to do well. Thunderbolts has a nice cinema score, a high cinema score, 80 A-, which is very high for the recent Marvel movies. Very good. Thunderbolts is a return to form. It's going to have a good run. But I do want to talk about what you and I like. A couple of things that is happening. So Thunderbolts doing great, fantastic. No spoilers. Not super. Not heroes. Not giving up. Good time at the movies. A return to form for Marvel. Amazing. Good opening. Not better than Captain America, but I feel it's going to hold a lot better than Captain America. And
word of mouth is better on this one. It's gonna have longer legs.
And
it also had a smaller budget, so that's probably in its favor as well.
But also, there's nothing coming out the next 2 weeks. We have major releases coming out on Friday. One is Clown in a Cornfield and Fight or Flight. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Clown in the Cornfield in the worst way possible, just because I like simple gags. But I don't think they can stand up to this. And then the other thing that's going on, they don't have any real competition for any of the key demographic, 18 to 49, until Final Destination comes out, and even that isn't really an A+ horror franchise, right? It's the real competition doesn't come till May 23rd, which is Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible 7, the Final Reckoning. So that's great. The other things going on besides Thunderbolt, and again, Thunderbolts is a great story because it's very much a Marvel Studios getting its groove back in just the right time.
Yeah.
Also, a real interesting article came out in the Wall Street Journal about how Kevin Feige has felt stretched thin. Thunderbolts is the first time he gets back to doing what he does, which is total control of the project. All bodes well for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the other story we have to talk about, Rich, is this.
Still going strong.
Still
Love
going
it.
strong. Amazing. Incredible.
Even losing its IMAX screens to
it
Thunderbolt.
lost all its big screens. It lost all its big screens, all its premium screens. It grossed $33 million this weekend. It's only off 28% from last weekend. Minecraft is still going strong as well. Minecraft's about to hit $400 million. And actually, if you look at it through the top 10, Thunderbolt 74, 33%ers, Minecraft at 13.7, only off 47%. And then Accountant 2 had 9.4 million. It's already grossed 41 million. So there's a little bit of churn. There's a little bit of, dare I say, there's a little bit of excitement for the summer box office, Rich. But Sinners is an incredible thing. We're at 179 domestic, 57 international, so 237. Its next goal is to hit 300 million on a $90 million budget. And my question to you, Rich, is I could have sworn we heard a conversation a couple weeks ago about this movie isn't out of the woods yet, which is, as we look at it now, fucking idiocy. Because I was looking at, the interesting thing for the breakdown for Sinners, the weekdays, it's doing $5 to $7 million every day. Like it's just churning, people going to see it and getting part of it. I saw it again before I saw Thunderbolts on Thursday, and there were these 5 teenagers sitting next to me. And as I was getting up, because I didn't need to see the second, I was rushed to get the Thunderbolts, and I wanted to get my free keychain, which I did get. I should have it here, but I don't. But basically, I told them there's another cutscene, and they were like, "Oh, cool! This movie's awesome." Yes, it is. But it's the story of the year because it's the idea that Minecraft is going to make $400 million is great. But to me, the idea that we're close to a $300 million original vampire movie set in the Mississippi Bayou in 1937, you know what I mean? Like that to me it warms my heart. And it's, seeing it a second time, it holds up. It's well done. And I just feel that there's a move back to movies. We got a lot of movies coming out this summer. And can you not feel the excitement brimming? Like it's starting to happen. You know what I mean? Kind of happy about that. I was looking at the box office. It's not a bad box office week. And various movies doing very well, or just holding. A lot of holds under 60%, which is what you need to be able to have a hit after a certain point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until Dawn is another one that only costs about $10 million to make, and it's on its third week, and it's grossed like $17 million. Not a lot, but it's a horror movie, so it didn't cost a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I looked at the numbers this week. I know everybody's also talking about the Thunderbolts not grossing as much as Captain America, but my answer to you is the second weekend is going to be a smaller drop, I think. And also, it has no competition for the next 3 weeks. So it should be fine. And get up there. It deserves it. I can't talk enough about how much fun it was. Especially her. She's great. But she's really great. I love her.
She carries, yeah. Florence Pugh carries this film. I mean, we really.
It's David Harbour, but it's a different kind of carrying.
Yeah, I mean, we went in deep on it on Friday. I would say just go to the YouTube page and find the stream and give it a watch.
Yeah, it was a really good review. We had a good time with it. But we are not always here. Even other stories. What other stories are we doing? or are we going to the important stuff, which is taking a mission, choosing to accept it, right? Look at that scar, Rich Drees, that's not available in any of the other posters, even though it's a deep blade scar in this movie.
Mm.
Tonight's movie is Mission Impossible 2. It came out 4 years after the original Mission Impossible.
Because it went through some development.
It went through some development, and it's how do I say this? I love this franchise so much, and this movie is meh. It's mid. It's a perfectly fine summer action movie, but it is not up to par with the rest of the franchise, even the original, right? And but let's get into it because you got some good facts tonight. You're going to be dropping facts on people.
Dropping knowledge bombs.
Dropping knowledge bombs. Like,
I'm 56. I should not be doing that.
You shouldn't be dropping. You shouldn't be doing this at all. Like,
no,
that looks bad. On several levels. By the way, do you like my new Vader?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, popcorn cup. But he's also a Sith Lord. That is something we could also talk at the end of the really quick before we get to Mission Impossible.
Okay.
The previous chart, just so we're clear, Revenge of the Sith did bang up business. 20 years after the fact, it grossed $25 million on the opening weekend, and then it just kind of chugged along. I went to see it. I saw it twice, but the first time I went to see it, it broke down, and then the second time I went to see it, it didn't break down, but it was still packed in the theater because it was the last day to see it.
When I was in Los Angeles Thursday night, I was in a standby line for a very seldom seen pre-code comedy, and I wound up not getting in. But if I had decided to just bail on the standby line at the Chinese theater, go across the street to the Egyptian, or I'm sorry, the El Capitan, and buy a ticket for Revenge of the Sith. Do you know who would have shown up at my showing beforehand?
Hayden Christensen was there. Was it Hayden?
And Sam Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So let me tell you about my mistake of the week, Star Wars wise. My mistake of the week, Star Wars wise. I told my wife yesterday. I'm like, Saturday. I'd said we should go to Disney tomorrow for Star Wars Day. And she said it's going to be packed. There's no reason to go, and it's too short notice. I said okay. Lo and behold, I check my Disney things today, and who's walking around the park? Just walking around the park at like right before the park was closing. Diego Luna just walking around. Yeah, fucking crazy. And also, I kind of shot my wife a look. I'm like, I sent her a video, and I'm like, yeah, that could have been us. We wouldn't have been there that late because of the boys. I'm like, I know. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin my jaded cynicism that I wanted to go. But yeah, the Revenge of the Sith did very well.
Poor Kelly.
Which boy? Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm a big dumb animal.
Poor Kelly has to deal with you.
Yeah, she has to deal with my crazy. My Revenge of the Sith did very well. I'm super happy for that. Also, I'm super happy for this. Like, there was a Cody Rhodes thing over the weekend, and I'm going wrestling for a second. But Cody Rhodes did a thing where he was talking about prequels, and it went viral because he goes, I want to tell you two dirty little secrets. One, wrestling fans eat themselves, and two, Star Wars fans also eat themselves. And he goes, they're the two biggest fandoms that eat themselves or fight about and bitch about whatever. Because, but I have another dirty little secret for the Star Wars fans. The prequels aren't that bad. And you know what? I was thinking about it, and yeah, they're not the originals, and I will always love the originals more. But you know what? A Star Wars movie is still better, or Star Wars show, or is still better than half the shit we get, Rich. So same with Marvel. Like I can't. I just found that really funny, and he's just like, that's the dirty little secret. Dirty little secret is. And then they showed Hayden Christensen coming out to do an event, and Hayden Christensen came out to Cody Rhodes' music. Cody Rhodes has very specific entrance music, which is basically about his family, basically saying there's more than one royal family in wrestling. He's from the Rhodes family. And it had Hayden Christensen, and then they said Skywalker across the screen. I was like, that's a royal family. That works. That shit works with the music. That's perfect. Okay, Mission Impossible 2. Oh wait, comments first. JW needs a new mic. I don't need a new mic. I just feel like it's. Let me turn it up. How about this? Does it sound better, Ken? Since you're judging
a bit, yeah.
Never seen the Mission Impossible movies? None of them? Ken, this is why Donald Trump hates Canada. I'm kidding, Ken. It has nothing to do with you. He just hates everyone. Sound far away in another galaxy. Oh, I was sitting back. I'll sit forward. My mic is in a weird. Anyway, okay. So Mission Impossible 2. Let's start with production. Rich has the biggest truth bomb we're gonna get here tonight. But production. So this movie takes place 4 years after the original in 1996. The weird thing about some of the production is it's Mission Impossible 2 titled on screen with a 2, and then titled on screen with double I's, and then at some point it just got abbreviated into this monstrosity, which is just MI-2, and then Mission Impossible 2. But on screen it's 2 with the I's. So all kinds of shit going on behind the scenes. And the production is weird.
They had a long process trying to put this film together.
Started with the writing.
Brian De Palma
is crazy.
Brian De Palma is a tough act to follow, but Tom Cruise and the producer decided, you know who would be great for this? Oliver Stone. And Oliver Stone became a talent.
I had not heard that, and that would have been a fucking ridiculous. I don't know as ridiculous as this one, but I could just see Ethan Hunt getting into way more interesting trouble with regards to with Oliver Stone. Like, you found a conspiracy, really? Does it involve Kennedy? No, okay. But
Oliver Stone gets on here, and Stone brings aboard the writer of Enemy of the guy who would go on to write Enemy of the State, or had just written Enemy of the State. I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline right around here. Dave Marconi. Okay, he was the first writer on board this project when Oliver Stone was working, when Oliver Stone was developing it with Tom Cruise. Now, I was listening to an interview that Marconi did a couple of years ago with it's a Mission Impossible podcast called Light the Fuse. And so I was listening to this interview. I know it's a great title for a Mission Impossible, right?
Light the goddamn fuse.
He was saying that his script, the original story that he and Oliver Stone developed, was about AI. They kind of went to some computer people. They talked to them, said, hey, we have a few things that we want to do in this script. Is it possible? Some things they were like, yeah. Some things they were kind of like, nah. They were kind of drawing on inspiration partly from the movie Colossus, The Forbin Project, with Eric Braeden from the 70s.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Based on a book also called The Forbin Project, which was the first in a trilogy. I read them in high school. Highly recommend them if you like 60s, 70s kind of speculative sci-fi. So anyways, they're developing this story, but it was centered solely on Ethan, because part of the story also was Ethan's hunt for his father, and the two kind of mesh. The story started off in Ethan's freeing some people, takes a mission to free some people in from a prison in northern China, and then once he gets there, he discovers it's all been set up by this AI.
I thought you were going to say El Salvador.
No, no, so he goes. It's all set up, and he's kind of like on this whole quest to find his father. And the third act goes into space. That's all the guy would say.
The third act goes into space. That makes perfect sense.
It's crazy, I know, but so they kind of do this because that's where the AI is. The AI is ultimately on like a part of a satellite or something.
Of course it is. Because it's
so
Moonraker.
kind
They
of
were trying to do Moonraker early. They were trying to do
The-
Moonraker early.
Yeah, two things happen here. One, they go to Tom Cruise, who like is in the middle of working on Eyes Wide Shut, and that's taking forever. And he was kind of like he wanted to move the story in more team fashion. He wanted Luther back. He wanted a team around Ethan. He kind of wanted to retain that core concept from the thing. He didn't want to make it a solo Ethan Hunt movie.
He didn't want to make it a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah,
he wanted
and also another Paramount film came out around this time called The Saint, and The Saint uses a lot of masks. And Oliver Stone was a little upset that he goes, why is Paramount using this whole mask conceit with this other franchise when it's a Mission Impossible thing? So ultimately,
Oliver Stone never watched The Saints, is what you're telling me.
Well, the old crew I don't think did the whole brr thing that they were doing in the movie, but so after like two drafts, Mark. I don't either. That's another film we need to get to at some point on here.
I think it's a fun movie.
But so anyways, Marconi does two drafts, and
I wonder if we have the.
And then they bring in Michael Tolkien to come in and do some additional drafts. To kind of bring the team into the script and stuff like that.
Then they bring in Hollywood Old Guard. The amount of Hollywood Old Guard and Hollywood New Guard on this movie is crazy. Writing one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is also at the time once Tolkien does his draft or two, and they still can't get a story that Cruise is happy with. That's when Stone leaves and goes off to do some stuff. Tolkien leaves to go off and do stuff. Marconi has already left, and that's when they bring in the new batch. And that's where you're taking it.
Yeah, Ronald Moore and Brandon Braga come in. They do a draft of the script that includes the team concept. They bring in Willie Armitage, one of the original team members from the original show, although they were always under the impression, and I guess that's the character that turned into the helicopter pilot, right? And basically, they were going to bring in a younger actor instead of Peter Lupus. So again, that kind of pissed off Mission Impossible fans. So there was that. Ronald D. Moore and Brandon Braga's draft eventually goes to or comes onto the same hemisphere of William Goldman, who claims he was the first writer ever on the film. Although he says major pieces of the movie are not mine, right? All that's left of mine is the climax. The climbing and the fighting with the rock sequence is mine. I couldn't come up with a good villain, is what William Goldman says, which is mind-boggling. That William Goldman, who taught a class at USC and UC 40 fucking years, couldn't come up with a villain for a spy movie.
You're cutting in and out here.
Am I?
You were there for a moment, yeah. It was so weird.
It's insane to me that William Goldman could not come up with a villain or couldn't come up with a thing where couldn't come up with a villain. The man has taught classes for 40 years. And then so Robert Towne gets called in again. Robert Towne, who of course wrote the first one as well, helped with the first one.
Worked on it.
And he works on it. He comes in and he says, his story is he comes in and is basically told the same thing that Brian De Palma told him, which is action sequences are already planned out in the fire and prior to his involvement, and that a good chunk of the story had already been written. So Robert Towne is like, what am I supposed to do then? Which, Rich, that's insane. You have two of the greatest screenwriters in the history of the world who come in and are told these three action sequences have to happen and you need to write the story around it. It's
And
it's not a way to make a movie.
No, it's not. And complicating matters is the idea of who's going to get credit for this script, because according to guild rules, that you have to write a certain amount of chunk of the script to get, you know, a story by credit or a screenplay by credit, and those are important because they help a writer determine what he's going to get paid on his next job. So that's why you'll see like the third, fourth, or fifth person on a project will start making substantial changes just to say, hey, I met the quota. I did more writing on this than the other guy.
Those deadly ampersand people you see on big budget blockbusters. And
and the word, you know, writing teams with, you know, Bob Smith and A&D, you know, Kelly Jones, ampersand.
Blah, blah, blah. This is interesting.
It's crazy.
Brandon and Braga here. Moore and Braga get the story credit. Towne gets the full screenplay credit by himself, which to me is crazy. The other thing that comes up that has to be talked. First off, this is one of the first movies where there's an actual legit question about the safety of Tom Cruise's health, right? Because the solo climbing at Dead Horse Point State Park in Moab, Utah, basically the studio's like, we don't think we can get insurance for it. And he's like, I don't care. I'm good.
Cruise had a long talk with John Woo about this. And Woo was like, hey, you know, we got a stunt coordinator. We can get a stunt double. And Cruise basically was like, no. Because a stunt double will have different body movements than I will. And people will see through that. I don't care if he has the best wig in the business to look like my wavy mane in this film.
The wavy mane in this film is amazing.
It is.
So just so we're clear,
so
it's a crazy thing. No safety net while filming the sequence. He did, however, have a harness and a thin wire, and he also, of course, this is one of the first times where he's actually injured while performing the jump from the one point of the cliff to the other. So
wrenched his
he tore his shoulder. So it is the first time where something has happened. A couple comments. Hold on. Good evening. Sorry I'm late. How could you, Joe? How could you?
Joe.
Hello, gentlemen. Gabe, good to have you. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Gabe. Thanks for stopping by.
JW needs to stay close at Mike. It works when he is an inch or two away. I don't want to be close. Anyway, I'll stay close. But so the other major story that I came up with, because you know I like fighting, Rich. I do like fighting. Thandiwe Newton, by the way, she has a new way to say her name, by the way. It used to be Thandy, but there is a we in it now at the end. So it's Thandiwe. So instead of Thandy, there's a W before the E. So I want to make sure we get it right.
I'm wondering if Thandy was like the short version, like the John, and then she went to John.
I think it might be. So she had several unpleasant set experiences with Cruise during one of the filming sequences. And basically, Cruise was very stressed out over the expectations of the sequel being good. And he was upset during shooting of one of the scenes because she had, and I quote, the shittiest lines of dialogue he had ever heard. And then basically they went into different things. But she ended up calling Jonathan Demme because she was terrified and insecure. And basically, you know, she basically said afterwards, like, bless him, and I really do mean bless him because he was trying his hardest. but we had a real trouble connecting, and I had trouble connecting with the script. And I think that's a real interesting. First off, it's really amazing that an actor admits that they're not connecting to the material, and then that the other person is trying really hard and being like, she felt bad that she couldn't be the scene partner he needed. But then I was watching the movie today, Rich, and oddly enough, I know this is going to sound wild, and we're going to get to our reviews, but she does indeed have the shittiest lines of dialogue I have ever. Like, they're just bad.
Yeah, I
They're
mean, I've only watched this like twice since it originally came out, and
I think I saw it twice in theater.
every time I watch it,
today.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Their chemistry here is non-existent.
Their chemistry is brutal for a movie that's trying to copy Notorious. It's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad. And the thing is, you know, it's weird because he'll find other people later in the franchise, but this love connection is not a good one. But we'll get to that. But she had a real bad experience on the movie, but she didn't blame anybody. Yeah, it was. And then the other insurance thing that came up because it's a Tom Cruise movie is, Tom Cruise brought a real knife to the knife fight at the end of the movie. The one that's he brought a real knife to the set and told Dougray Scott, I want you to use a real knife. I think it'll put your full strength behind it, and we'll get a realistic look at the scene. And Dougray Scott's response was, if I put a real strength into it, Tom, I'm gonna put the knife through your fucking head. And but I will say the knife fight is one of the best sections of the movie. So I mean, that is one thing about Tom Cruise in production. He knows when it's going wrong, and he knows how to fix it. It's just that he happens to be crazy when he's fixing it. He's a maniac, and that's great. I was talking about this. We went with wife and one of my friends that I go to the movies with all the time, and his wife came to Thunderbolts because she goes to the Marvel movie. And she goes, "What's the next movie you guys are going to see?" And I go, "Mission Impossible. Do you want to go?" She goes, "Nope, he's too old." And him and I both looked at her with like such a stern face and said, "No, he's not. Don't talk about our Tom like that." And she goes, "But he's crazy." I'm like, "I know he's crazy. He gives me 120% though. Every movie he's in, he gives me 120%. Even if 120% isn't even called for, he gives me 120%. So, like, did he need to be 120% in Magnolia? Probably not, but he gave me 120%, and then he got an Oscar nomination. So, You know what? He gives me everything he has every time we go to the movies. So, don't you talk bad about our Tom. Anyway.
He may be kind of Captain Looney Tunes in
real life. And technically probably part of a, but we don't want to say that out loud. But he gives me 120%, and every time I go see a Tom Cruise movie, I know I'm guaranteed
at least part of a book club, a book club, bowling league,
something. I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to get attacked. But anyway, he gives me everything he has, and I am guaranteed at least 3 moments in a film where I'll go, I can't believe somebody that's older than me is doing that. I wouldn't do that, but thank God he does, because he does it for my entertainment.
It's so funny. As he gets older, he throws himself into these stunts more and more, and yet somebody like Jackie Chan, as they've gotten older, we're like, I'm good. You know, I think I'm
going to do a Karate Kid movie. I'm going to do a Karate Kid movie. But look at this. Like, he's driving through fire, and it's clearly him. This isn't This isn't a Schwarzenegger stunt double. This is him with the uncredited cameo of Anthony Hopkins, which I totally forgot about until I got to it today. This is him not having chemistry with Thandiwe Newton. This is him with long flowing hair with 2 guns, because it's a John Woo movie, for fuck's sake. Luther Stickle returns. And then this is him with the knife after he gets cut. This is him also causing somebody at an insurance company to have a heart attack.
Plots.
Yeah, just hanging off a fucking thing in Monument Valley. Anyway, let's talk about box office. Okay, so I was surprised to find this out today, Rich. I'm sure
I
you
know.
were when I told you. This
You
is
saw
the-
my face when I went, what?
We're gonna do it again. This movie is the second highest grossing Mission Impossible movie of all time.
Say what?
And say what? The adjusted domestic box office for this movie is $452 million, which is $11 million less than the original. So it is by far the second highest grossing movie of the franchise. But here's where it gets funny. It's also domestic box office franchise high, with our second all time 215, which isn't super high, but higher than the original. International box office though, Rich, 334 for 549 in 2000. So that is insane numbers. These are immense numbers that you go, opening weekend, ready? $120 million production budget in 2000, which is very high in 2000. It grosses 4.6 times its production budget, which is good for a modern blockbuster, right? Opening weekend, $57.8 million, a 3-day weekend. It ends up having about 8 weeks in theaters. It also opens in 3,653 theaters, which at a time was a record. The record it beat was Scream 3, which is, again, one of those things where you go, okay. And the 57 million is
90s were crazy, man.
90s were not, 2000s. But
90s hangover.
90s hangover. But then, you look at the number, it lasted about a good 8 weeks, which for summer blockbusters in the 2000s and on, 8 weeks is a pretty great average run theater. Now, 8 weeks then would have meant another 4 months before it went onto streaming, right? So those 8 weeks, it did a good amount of box office because people knew they'd have to wait till Christmas to get it. November, you know what I mean? Like to rent it or be able to watch it at home, which is not where we're at now. But it was the highest grossing film of 2000, Rich. I was shocked when I read this because as we get into this, critical response then and now, Rich, it is not a good movie. I love John Woo. So much, and there is so much John Woo in this movie that I was wooed out. There are doves, there are two guns, there is slow-mo, there's slow-mo when people are flamenco dancing.
Like if John Woo had come out and said he was parodying his own style just because he was getting paid a shit ton of money by a Hollywood studio,
would have been okay.
I would absolutely understand and say yes and give him all the respect in the world for it.
It's not parody, though. It's serious.
Yeah. This is coming at the end of that whole like Hong Kong action kind of blew up in the late 80s, early 90s in Hong Kong, all through the 80s into the 90s. Starting in like the late 80s, it started to dribble over here a little bit. The first kind of inclination of what that all was about was, I think, was it 88 or 89's Big Trouble in Little China. John Carpenter was way ahead on that. And then people started getting, or at least I did, started getting like Jackie Chan bootlegs when they went to New York City, or John Woo films.
Right.
Or,
John Woo had Woo had 3 or 4 movies that where somebody who worked at a Blockbuster Video. I passed out on a regular Friday night. The Killer, A Better Tomorrow, and what was the other one? Like even The Replacement Killers and Face Off. Eventually Face Off. So like he made a bunch of great movies, and then he kind of just
But all of those guys who were in that little scene in Hong Kong, like suddenly the studios around 95, 96, perked their ears up and you said, oh, this is a thing.
They know how to make action movies. Right. They know how to make action movies.
Because I hate to say his name, but Weinstein and Miramax was getting some of those films and bringing them over to the U.S., putting crap
And
dubs
making
on them
money.
and getting
Right.
them out. And people were going, oh my gosh. And as this scene kind of exploded over here, or our awareness of what was going on 7 years ago was happening over here, that's when Hollywood started bringing these guys over. And you're right. You see like your Ronnie Hughes, your Andy Lau's, all these types of people are starting to show up in movies here. Jet Li in the Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah, and then Jet Li in The Weapon and The One, and like Jet Li had a bunch of
Jackie
little
Chan doing his stuff. And most of them wound up kind of like doing a couple of things here and there, finding out they don't like the Hollywood studio system that much because it's so much bigger than
they ended up going
what
back.
they were coming from. They lost a amount of creative control and they went back. And I think this is a weird movie where John Woo's trying to do his thing. And I don't know if there was like a whole lot of creative tussling back and forth between him and Cruise.
And
The
Wagner,
interview
yeah,
with John Woo, the interview I listened to with John Woo, he didn't mention that, but he could be too much of a gentleman, even 20 years down the line, and say,
listen to these movies. He had A Better Tomorrow 2, 86, 87. He had The Killer and Just Heroes in 89. He had Bullet in the Head in 90, Once a Thief in 91, and then Hard Boiled in 92. He comes to the U.S. in 93, does Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which I'm going to tell you right now, Rich, is a personal favorite of mine. I love that movie so much. Mainly because I like the idea of people being hunted for sport. I think it's where we're headed. And then then he does Hard Target, and then he does 96. He does Broken Arrow, which again, an action movie fans kind of a wet dream. It's just it's Travolta
it's a good
Christian Slater and Howie Long, who's a Raider. So it's like I love that movie. And then in 97 he does Face Off, which if you haven't seen Face Off, kids, or you haven't seen it recently, they're getting ready to reboot it in some way. I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do, but Face Off is a one of one. It's a movie so ridiculous and amazing, and the performances are so good in it. From actors that are used
to the same premise that I out of any movie pitch in an executive office.
Let me do John Cassavetes' son doing it. You took his face off, like he's in a Shakespeare play. But it's such a great movie, and then that was a Paramount production, so that leads him into Mission Impossible 2.
Mm-hmm. After Oliver Stone.
After Oliver Stone passed, thank Christ. But here's the thing: this movie, all of those things don't work for Ethan Hunt. So the action sequences are good and they're well set up. But the bike chase is weird. But how do I say this? They're good.
I sort of look at the bike chase as a throwback to knights jousting in a way.
Rich,
I mean, that's
the problem with the bike chase is every car that Ethan Hunt hits at some point explodes. That's the problem.
They're very flammable cars in Australia. What can I say?
Yeah, they're pre-electric. It wasn't good. So for me, like, I don't go into a Mission Impossible movie expecting a good plot, although the recent ones 4 through 7 have all been really dense scripts, very well done. Mm-hmm. I didn't go with the early ones looking for plot. I certainly didn't think about this one as a plot. There's not a lot of chemistry between Cruise and Thandiwe Newton, right? There's Dougray Scott is meh. He's a meh villain. The Chimera Virus, which by the way might be in the new one, because there are people piecing together trailer pieces. This looks like the Chimera Virus injector gun. I'm like, every injector gun looks like an injector gun. But maybe. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with the last one. But the Chimera Virus is interesting, but it immediately kills people in 20 hours. So there's really no, like, the clock doesn't work there.
Yeah. I want to kind of.
A lot of it doesn't work.
I want to bring something to your attention here that I didn't think about it until I kind of read it over the weekend. I was like, oh,
Okay.
that's interesting. And I thought about it while I was watching this again. John Woo had said, he kind of wanted to do like Ethan Hunt as a bit of a Cary Grant, very suave and handsome, but able to also handle some actiony stuff. He was thinking specifically of like Charade or North by Northwest.
Right.
Especially in this instance, I'm going to say North by Northwest, because when you look at Dougray Scott and how he interacts with his chief underling there, were you a little bit reminded of James Mason and Martin Landau's kind of like
they're
spoken textual homoeroticism in North by Northwest?
Clearly this henchman wants to fuck the bad guy. That's all there.
And ironically, I invoked John Landau because he wound up being on Mission Impossible, the TV series, years later.
Yeah, Martin Landau. But what I would say to you is it's all there, but that never gets mentioned.
Yeah,
but it's there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't watching
it going, oh, look at that.
Well, yeah, and there is an error, like there is an error in the early part of the movie of Hitchcock, right? That he's taking a woman that he theoretically might like and putting her into harm's way. It's got a Notorious vibe or North by Northwest or whatever you want to say. And that's fine. And it would be cool if the guy that she were going to meet was amazing, but he's not. He's kind of like a loud Scottish bore kind of a guy. And so like that is one thing as we progress, the Mission Impossible movies will find people that are charismatic. The third one we got coming up finds a charismatic villain that we can all get behind.
Oh God, yeah.
May he rest in peace. But it never really gels.
No, and I do want to do one major gripe at this movie. Okay. I mean, a lot of minor gripes about how this kind of doesn't work, blah blah blah. But towards the end, when
I don't know what you're gonna say, but I'm gonna agree with it. I don't know what you're gonna say, but you're right.
When Ethan and Head Flunky have that fight, and then we cut to Dougray Scott. Head Flunky brings in Ethan, and he's all messed up, and he's unconscious, and he's like, and it's that whole mask thing.
Yeah.
He pulls it off, and it's actually the Flunky is underneath an Ethan Hunt mask, and Ethan is under a Flunky mask, and he, takes off with the antidote after
Bellerophone, by the way. The name of the antidote is Bellerophone.
Whoever wrote that into the script, and there are numerous culprits, whoever it was, totally ripped that off of Sam Raimi's Darkman.
Yes.
They did that gag in Darkman about 8 years earlier. And I saw it in the theater, it made me mad, and it made me mad again today.
The other thing is that fight starts. The amazing thing about that fight, the henchmen are running through the area, and that fight starts because of one lone fucking white dove, and it's just so John Woo and so stupid. It's dumb. And the other thing is, like, up until this point, Ethan Hunt just shoots people, right? Or he fakes people out. But in this one, he's like Karate Man Ethan Hunt at the end. I don't know. Like, I was looking at the numbers, right? This movie is one of the highest grossing movies. It got the cinema score grade was a B, which isn't good. Down from the B plus of the first movie. Roger Ebert, our good friend, awarded the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying, if the first movie was entertaining as sound, fury, and movement, this one is more evolved, more confident, more sure-footed in the way it marries minimal character development to seamless action. The action sequences are good. That is not the question. My question for you is, and this is a really good question, doesn't Ethan Hunt seem out of place in the jumpsuit with 2 guns in the middle of a firefight? That is not who this character is.
You
know what I mean?
No,
like,
I would agree with you there. It's very much the typical John Woo hero, the bullet ballet kind of approach to action. And
the throwing the bomb
yeah,
and then hitting the bomb in one fell swoop.
And as we continue to, yeah, but as we continue to watch these films in order, it's going to seem more and more out of place as they kind of settle into another style. In fact, I dare say half the fighting maneuvers we saw, we see in this one, we will never see again. Ethan Hunt will never do that really cool kind of thing, whatever.
Will never happen again. And that's what I'm saying to you. Like, it's like, it's like that theory that they always have in Hollywood. We're gonna give Bond a bunch of different cool directors, and we're gonna see Bond do different things. And you and I have talked about it, right? It's like that would be a great idea, but I also wouldn't mind somebody that just knows how to make a Bond film. Just make a Bond film. No, I'm not saying I don't need Christopher Nolan's James Bond movie, but I'm saying to you, there's nothing wrong with somebody coming in and just making a good Bond movie and knowing what they're doing. This is all John Woo, and it becomes stylistically, it hurts the movie. It becomes
I mean,
so
and remember, I said I like that the first 4 movies of the franchise are director showcases. Even though here it doesn't quite fit, I appreciate that
that they're trying.
And it made a crap ton of money because it ensured that the longevity of the franchise. It ensured that it was going to go on. Would I have liked something a little bit more twisty, turny, thriller-ish, and maybe ratcheted back a little on the action, like we get with the Brian De Palma original? Probably. Would that have been as commercial? Probably not. For the overall,
I think one of the interesting things critique-wise is that this movie feels confused. It's trying to do Cary Grant and Hitchcock, and then it's also trying to be a John Woo movie, and it's also trying to be an Ethan Hunt Mission Impossible movie, and not all those pieces work together is the problem. But
then again, remember the Oliver Stone version would have been the Ethan Hunt origin story.
Yeah, that could have been awful. That could have been awful. I'm not lying to you.
I'd love to read either of those those couple of drafts that are out there. I kind of looked at my sources recently, and they're not there, unfortunately.
Other reviews. Listen to this. Like one reviewer said, every car chase, every plane crash, every potential drop off a cliff is a masterpiece of grace and surprise. John Woo takes complete command of the latest technology to create brilliant action sequences. I agree with that. It doesn't work with Ethan. And then somebody wrote in the Village Voice, enough, a vaguely absurd thriller filled with elaborately superfluous setups and shamelessly stale James Bond riffs. Then somebody also wrote, even more empty a luxury vehicle than its predecessor. And that's another thing. We use Rotten Tomatoes to do the aggregate. This movie, on the tomato meter, 56% from critics.
Ouch.
And here's where it gets really bad, Rich. 42% from fans. It's the lowest popcorn meter of any Mission Impossible movie. I looked it up. And they're just it's just one of those and then one of the critics that comes up, and Thandiwe Newton, she's really good in it, even though the stuff she's given to read, Rich, is so implausibly bad. Because she's
trying to make diamonds out of dog shit, and
she does her best. She does her best. But she's supposed to be a cat burglar who's this amazing cat burglar, and every time she does something cat burglary at all, the script has her fumbling or like getting caught, or it's just like it would be like if a Hitchcock movie had a brunette in it. Is the best way I can say it. She is just cursed from the beginning. Okay.
It's not her fault. I don't even think she was necessarily miscast.
And it's not. I'm not gonna lie. It's not bad. It's not a bad 2 hours, right? It's still a good action film. But as we get into this, as we progress to the legacy of the franchise, this is going to be the bottom of the barrel. I think if we, at the end of our deep dive in this franchise, Generation Movie Deep Dive, we look at this movie, this would be 8, right? Any list we do, this movie's going to be 8. Like any list of, and that is before we know what's going to happen in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or I should say what's going to happen for you in a week. Because you are getting to see it next week early, and I hate you.
Next week. Well, the movie has its official premiere on, I think it's the 14th at Cannes, which is next Wednesday. So, all the critic screenings are happening earlier than normal because of that, I guess.
Earlier than normal, and also there is no embargo. The embargo is like the 14th.
Yeah, the embargo lifts actually, I think, on Tuesday.
Take it from two guys that understand this business better than somebody trying to start tariffs. If a movie gets screened on a Monday and they're releasing the embargo on a Wednesday the same week, Rich, what does that mean for folks?
Probably not good.
No, it's good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like trying to find Mission Impossible
here.
You're
dozing off on me.
No, I'm trying to find it in my phone to get the actual right time and date on the embargo.
So anyway, let's try that again. Rich, if a movie is screening on a Monday and you get to the embargo lifts on a Wednesday of the same week, a week before the movie opens, what does that mean, Rich?
So you mean the reviews start coming out 10 days before the movie opens?
Yes. What does that mean for critics like you and I?
That's very good news. That
means it's critic proof and it's probably amazing, and they don't give a fuck who sees it and talks about it.
I was talking about this with Natasha earlier, and I was like, "Can you remember when there was an embargo that lifted like this? The last time I can remember."
I was thinking about it for you. I can't remember one that's so far in advance.
The last one I can remember that was about 10 days, might have even been a little bit longer, was the first Deadpool movie. I remember seeing that extraordinarily early, and them announcing like the embargo was lifting like 2 days later, and I remember turning to know how fucking great it is and commenting on it.
Right. And the answer to that is we just want everybody to know how fucking great this movie is. Yeah. We want everybody to know before you can buy your tickets before you can think about buying your tickets next week. Everybody who's seen this movie is telling you, "Holy fuck!"
That ended the premiere coming, 10 days before it opens as well.
It's confidence is what it is, right? Yeah. It's the ultimate confidence. But this, I will say that this one did so well, we were guaranteed a sequel, right? I mean, even though there isn't a tried and true sequel station in this one, right, where he gets the next mission code thing, right? Yeah. They kind of get rid of that in the franchise. But this movie almost guarantees that there's a sequel, and it's justified. It's a good action movie, but it's not a great Mission Impossible.
And we're starting to see some of the building blocks of that become the franchise.
Right, the team aspects, right? The team aspects. Yeah. Luther Stickle, right? Ving Rhames gets. The funny, there is a really great. I wish they should have brought him back, but I will say because he has 2 great moments. He has some really great moments where he hits the door on one of the Martin Landau like bad guy. He hits the door on him, and the guy absolutely freaks the fuck out on him, and it's great. He's just like, "The bathroom's over there." It's amazing. But I will say the interesting Luther Stickle here, the humor between him and Cruz starts. This is where they start building the character as like, I'm the guy on the computer that helps the best secret agent in the world do whatever, but he's also a guy that wears Gucci shoes to the Australian outback and steps in shit.
$800 Gucci shoes.
He's like, they shot a hole in my Gucci jacket, and he has Gucci 2 times in this movie. Then I will say to you, it's the first part where there's like Ving Rhames is clearly happy to be back, and Ving Rhames is clearly he loves the character, right? And that will be the building blocks that we get that start building, and then we're eventually going to get Simon Pegg, and we're eventually going to get some of the women that have Michelle Monaghan's of the world, and like we're eventually about to get the next stable of characters that are around Ethan that allow him to actually do Ghost Protocol and Fallout and Rogue Nation and the Dead Reckoning Part One, even though it's not Part One anymore, it's just Dead Reckoning, and all these things. But they will start to build around him in the exact team way. So this movie maybe wasn't team based. It has a little bit of team, but they hit on the building blocks of what is going to make the franchise great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cruise is kind of pushing things towards that, towards what we ultimately,
Teamwork.
you know, the ultimate, I don't want to say Urtex, but the ultimate distillation that we get once he teams up with Macquarie.
Yeah. The distillation
and
of teamwork and keeping the
Yeah.
team alive, not just keeping myself alive.
Yeah. Again, that's, you know, him moving away from what Oliver Stone wanted to do, which would have been an interesting Oliver Stone movie, but it wouldn't have been an interesting Mission Impossible movie.
No, it wouldn't be. Okay, that is a perfect place to end tonight. Rich, where can people find your stuff? And then we'll tell everybody
my
it's time
writing.
we're going to meet.
All of my writing is at filmbuffonline.com. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account that you can follow as well. Facebook page, we do some history posts on this date and film history things, as well as announce our new stories whenever they go up. I also do two other podcasts. One is Film Scribes with the Philadelphia Film Critics Circle, of which I'm a member. We are recording our next one tomorrow night. I'm producing that, so hopefully that will be out and available on your pod catcher and feeds of choice. So take a look for that. We're going to review Thunderbolts, Sinners, and what some folks saw at the recent Philadelphia Spring Festival. The other podcast that I do is the Big Picture Podcast with my very best friend and co-host, Natasha Bogutsky. Don't have anything scheduled right now because we're also in pre-production on a short film that we're doing in about 2.5 weeks over Memorial Day weekend. We're shooting that. I'm directing. She's producing. And so we're kind of busy with that. I want to try to squeeze in something before then. I don't think we're going to. But you can always find out by just following me on Twitter or Blue Sky at FilmBuffRich.
Okay, so you can find me, JW Movie Guy, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. I said all those things. We're good. And Twitter, I guess. Whatever it's called. We will be off next week because Rich, again, has an opportunity to go to a big screening. I would never take those opportunities away, and the show has to work around his very busy schedule. But we will be back in 2 weeks. So not the 12th, but the 19th, we will be back for Mission Impossible 3 with Tom Cruise and a little J.J. Abrams sprinkled in. Little J.J. Abrams makes everybody a little bit happier. You can also catch us. You can also look for all the YouTube links and everything that we've got going on. Also, you can see me tomorrow night, Tuesday night, Loud and Nerdy with Kyle and Jerry. We're going to talk about summer movies. We're going to talk about Thunderbolts a little bit more and a couple other things that are going on. Thank you for joining us tonight. Everybody have a great week. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks. And Rich will not be. Well, he can talk about it, but we're not going to talk about spoilers now.
Yeah. No.
Have a great night. We'll see everybody next week or 2 weeks. You know what I meant. Don't screw around. You know what I meant. Bye.